Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, John and Lee proudly present the greatest wrestling show ever!
So great news, first of all, the show intro's back. So I don't know if you saw, Lee, I forgot to do the show intro last week, which frankly ruined it before it even got started, I thought.
Amateur. You need the tune.
Well, we've discussed this. It is amateur. We don't get paid for it. It's okay. It's fine to be amateur when you're not getting paid. It's when you're getting paid and you're amateur that's a problem. If someone wants to start paying us, then I'll probably try and up my game a little bit. But until that point, I'm happy to be mediocre at best. Right, so today's match for a change isn't on pay-per-view. It probably is on the network. However, you sent me a YouTube link, which frankly is easier to follow than looking up on the network. It's Raw from 16th of January 2017. It's Roman Reigns versus Chris Jericho for the United States Championship. If anyone's watching it, which you probably aren't, then we press play in 3, 2, 1, off we go. Right, I've actually got some questions for you for a change, Lee, and you may or may not understand the relevance of these, depending on whether or not you clicked a link I sent you earlier. Are you ready for your questions?
Yeah.
Right, question 1. Are you the biggest asshole on God's green earth?
I'll go for a no.
Are you ready for your second question?
Do it.
Are you a sick, perverted, power-hungry freak?
Yeah.
Bing! And then last one, and well, to be honest, this is perfectly understandable. Do you pleasure yourself regularly to Tory and Playboy?
Obviously.
Ping. Right, so this actually takes place. I thought it was saying it was in Glasgow. Now it's in Glasgow next week. So they're obviously the week before the UK tour from a few years ago. So Jericho here is teaming with, or at least I don't know what you call it, connected with. Affiliated, that's a good word, isn't it? With Universal Champion Kevin Owens, the first proper Universal Champion, Kevin Owens, that is. Finn Balor, I don't know if you know this, won the Universal title for the first time. It was a tournament final between him and Seth Rollins, but he dislocated his shoulder during the match. So he won the match as planned at SummerSlam 2016, but then immediately had to vacate it the next day, making him a 24-hour champion. And Kevin Owens won that night to then become what you would generally consider to be the first proper Universal Champion.
Impressive.
Fun fact for you. And you may or may not have seen there that Jericho was carrying what's called the List of Jericho. Funnily enough, I've just got about 2/3 of the way through the Chris Jericho, Steve Austin interview on the Broken Skull sessions on the network. I don't know if you've seen that at all, have you?
I've not seen that one, no.
No, and in that he talks about the section I'm up to now is talking about the breakup of Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho because they're building for, at this point, they're expecting to wrestle for the Universal title at WrestleMania, where Jericho's going to win it and then drop it the next month to Lesnar. That's his understanding at this point of what's going to happen. However, they change it instead to Kevin Owens dropping the Universal title to Goldberg at the February pay-per-view that year, whatever that was called, to then make Jericho Owens for the US title and to make Goldberg versus Lesnar for the Universal title. But we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves there. And that's possibly giving you a spoiler as to the result of this match, I suppose, because obviously coming into it, Roman Reigns is the defending US champion.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it. Is this the night before or 2 nights before the Rumble that year?
Yeah. Well, it's on Raw, isn't it? So, yeah, it's going to be 5 nights before potentially, but it looks right from the date. Yeah, 16th of January. Now, I'm a bit confused as to why Roman Reigns is the US champion, because he's only a few months removed here from his first his first World Heavyweight Championship. No, sorry, he's not. Hang on, what year are we in? No, he's a year and a bit removed from his first world title win. But he's very much a main eventer, and I don't quite know why he's slumming it with the US title at this point.
Yeah.
Just realised we've actually had 2 US title matches in a row. Last week's US title match was, of course, Scott Hall versus Roddy Piper. This week we've got Jericho versus Roman Reigns, also for the US title. I'm fairly confident this will be a superior match.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, there's not much to beat, is there?
No. Jericho at this point still looking. I mean, I like Jericho in a lot of ways, and he's doing amazingly well to continue to be relevant now in his early 50s. But his physique looks like it's melted like a candle over the last couple of years. I don't know if you've seen him in AEW.
No, I haven't actually.
I mean, I get it. As you get older, your physique's not going to be the same. He's not going to have the same body he had as a 30-year-old, but it just looks odd. Like it doesn't even necessarily look like it's just working out less or getting old. He's melted a little bit.
Crikey. I'll check it out. So, did you do much research then on the list of Jericho?
I did no research for two reasons. Firstly, laziness, predominantly laziness, but also I don't want to cheat for your quiz questions. If I've done some reading up on it and I get an answer to your quiz question, that's not quite the same. I want to answer it correctly because of my superior knowledge. Although, to be honest, I'm going to struggle more with this time frame than I am with stuff from 20 years ago.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Is this the most recent match we've done? Might be.
in this? I think we did a newer match in the first season.
The first season. What was that?
Wasn't the one a recent one with New Day?
Yeah, that would have been a bit more recent. We had the women's chamber match, didn't we, from 2019, didn't we?
Yeah.
The New Day Usos one was it from Kickoff SummerSlam 2017? It's only a handful of months after this one.
Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely the newest match in the greatest tournament. Well, while we're on the subject, so who was the first name on the list of Jericho?
Right. Was it not an announcer, backstage interviewer? Was it? Exactly. I think I saw this in the Broken Skulls sessions. Tom or whatever his name was, the backstage announcer, interviewer.
No.
Pass. Go on. Who is it?
Mick Foley.
Oh, I should have got that. Yes, sorry, I did see that. I saw that in that aforementioned Broken Skull sessions. He was clearly doing it about Foley. He was coming up with a long list of problems he had with Foley, and then obviously it morphed into the list of Jericho.
So is that what the list of Jericho is? Just basically a black book of people he's got beef with?
Exactly that, yeah. And he's always been good, Jericho, getting all sorts of different things over. So it's what started out, I think, just as a one-off thing and got a bit of a reaction, became one of the most over things in the company, where each week he would put someone on the list, but in his own unique delivery, it would be, "You just made the list!" And people were looking forward to seeing who made the list that day. And then the big end of the Kevin Owens Jericho relationship is brilliantly done, as Jericho himself says on Broken Skull sessions. One of probably the best feud. I don't know what you call it, not ending. It's the beginning of the feud. One of the best bits of business over the last few years. So they have what's called the Festival of Friendship. I don't know if you've seen this at all.
No.
This is about a month after this match here, where Jericho, right through their friendship, Jericho seems to be the one that's more keen, making more of an effort, and Owens is a bit cooler and a bit reluctant and taking a step back from that. And on this Festival of Friendship, Jericho has organised various things to display the level of friendship he has for Kevin Owens. I can't remember off the top of my head what they are, but they're all big things, very visual, held in the ring. And Owens says, I feel really bad. I didn't go to anywhere near the same length of effort that you've gone to. I just got you one thing." And he gives him this box. He opens up the box, and Jericho goes, "Oh, amazing. It's a new list. It's a new list. Fantastic." And the reveal is perfect. He looks at the list and goes, "All right, why does it have my name on it?" And then he lifts it up, and you can see on the back it says the list of KO. And you've got that couple of seconds where you're in on it, and Jericho, the character, obviously, I mean, he's designed this skit, but Jericho, the character, you're like, "Oh no!" And he slowly turns it round, and his face reveals that he understands what it means. Then Kevin Owens jumps in and gives him a kick in.
Fantastic.
But very well done.
That's really good.
Roman Reigns. Come on, hit me.
What was Roman's first championship in the WWE?
The tag titles with Seth Rollins.
Yeah,
in
hold on.
the summer of 2013. I believe on the same night, him and Rollins won the tag titles from Kane and Daniel Bryan, maybe. On the same night, that Dean Ambrose won the US title from, I want to say, Kofi Kingston, but I might be wrong about that.
Oh, well, it'd be impressive.
The Shield having not all the gold, obviously, but going to having a fair proportion of it, shall we say?
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. It's a good answer to that. What's next?
What was Roman Reigns' original ring name?
So, he was obviously in FCW, Florida Championship Wrestling. Now, his real name is Joe, and he is Samoan, but unfortunately, the name Samoa Joe had been taken. Samoa Joe's like the only one that's not in Roman Reigns' family, isn't he? He's like the other Samoan.
Yeah, the one other Samoan.
Yeah, you've got like 30 famous Samoan wrestlers. They're all related apart from Joe, who's. And to be honest, how many of them are like. I know they're of Samoan descent, and I suppose for Roman Reigns, actually, it's less removed than it is for some of the others because it is his dad that is originally Samoan. But he's clearly.
Yeah,
He's
some of them
American.
are-
He's American, isn't he? He's born in America.
Yeah,
He speaks. His first name, Roman. And is it some variation on his surname? Does it begin with like an L or something like that?
yeah.
Laugh something.
I don't know how it's pronounced, but it's Roman Leakey.
Yeah, I remember that now. Okay, yeah, I got it in my mind's eye. It's amazing that Roman wore a shirt for so long because when he's in developmental, he has not quite the physique he's got now, but similar to what he's got in this match. And obviously, having had half of last year off to stay at home and train, he returned without the vest to top, looking phenomenal. Why did they ever keep him in that? I mean, I get it was a hangover from his days in the Shield, but when you've got an overall look like that, and potentially you wanted to distance yourself from your past as a member of a trio, you think they'll whip the top straight off, wouldn't you?
Absolutely, yeah. Like you say, since he came back, as in 2021, especially, he looks incredible.
He's had his teeth done as well, which helps,
Yeah,
doesn't it? He's got a beautiful smile now.
yeah, incredible white.
Yeah, funny. I
Um,
don't quite know why they clearly diversified Rollins and Ambrose to make them look very different to when they were in the Shield. Ambrose, particularly, I think initially after their breakup, took to wearing jeans and a white vest
yeah,
top thing, whereas Roman essentially just carried on with the same music, slightly modified, pretty much the same outfit. Yeah.
yeah, interesting. Sticking with first titles, then, what was the first title Chris Jericho won as WWE?
In WWE, it would have been it's either the European or the Intercontinental title. I'm going to go European.
Oh, we should have gone the other way.
That's the way. He
Yeah,
won them both, and then he defended them in a triangle match at WrestleMania 2000 against Angle and Benoit, where the first four would be for one of them, let's say the European, and the second four would be for the other one, and he lost them both in that match, one to each of them. I was just trying to remember which order he won them in. Yeah, he had an amazing debut, Jericho. I don't know if you've ever seen it. He debuted summer of 1999. There'd been a countdown thing going on Raw for several months called the Countdown to the Millennium, where there's a clock counting down on the big screen, the Titantron, with days, hours, minutes, etc. But not to the millennium, not to the end of December the 31st, but to some day in August, which was clearly a Monday. So a number of people predicted it would be Jericho's debut because it's clearly something happening on an episode of Raw. But then the countdown eventually hits zero with The Rock in the ring cutting a promo, and Jericho comes out and cuts a quality promo very much straight away, putting him on the level of The Rock. But then over the course of the next few months, immediately sinks to the bottom of the card. A handful of weeks later, he's trading wins with the likes of D'Lo Brown, etc. And it took him a while to rebuild himself back to the level that we know him to be at.
Oh, wow. Well, did he do something particularly wrong, or?
I think, from my understanding from reading his book a few years ago, I think when Vince saw him work and his overall package on a regular basis, he was less impressed than he'd been with that initial debut and what he'd seen of him in WCW. So it took a bit of reproving himself to get back. I mean, we're only talking a handful of months, because whilst, again, he was roughing it a little bit, as we said there, by February, he's the Intercontinental and European champion. In the summer of that year, he beats Triple H for the World Heavyweight title, only to have it, the decision reversed. It was a little test to see what the reaction was, and when he pins Triple H, there's a massive pop from the crowd. And apparently Vince says to him afterwards, after he's had to return the title, don't worry, you'll have your turn. So he was clearly at that point being picked to be a future world champion. But do you know where his first proper world championship, well, actually it's his second technically, but when he becomes world champion proper, do you know the story of that?
No.
So I believe, if I remember correctly, when WWE buys out WCW in March 2001, and therefore all those titles come over, The Rock beats Booker T for the WCW title at SummerSlam 2001. I think Jericho then beats The Rock and then drops it back to The Rock. So he does have a 1 week or whatever it is WCW World title reign, which at that point is still recognised as an official separate World Championship. But the main one that we're talking about is Vengeance 2001. He unifies the WCW and WWF titles, beating The Rock and Steve Austin for those two titles, the two biggest stars in the business, on the same night to become the first ever undisputed champion.
Oh, crikey.
Yeah, quite a push. Oh, was that the end there? No, not quite, but we're not far off by the looks of the timer there. Any more questions for me?
It never ceases me how many Superman punches Roman Reigns doesn't successfully land.
Loves trying though, doesn't he? Oh, we got one there just to prove you wrong.
Yeah, I reckon about 1 in 5.
You should see if you can do some sort of stats on it, try and figure out what his ratio is. It's not a bad one to go for though, because even if your opponent reverses it or steps out of the way, you're not. If you go for like a big move off the top rope and you miss it, then you're hurt, aren't you? If you miss a Superman punch, you're probably okay.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's gone to disqualification. So Jericho's gone through. Presumably, it was a disqualification of Jericho. Roman Reigns has gone through. Obviously, Jericho's disqualified. Reigns has gone through. Now, we're not going to get Reigns versus Scott Hall, are we, from last week? So we're going to have to see what happens in the other quarterfinals and hope that we can make it work somehow.
Yeah,
what are the other semis that we've got, so to speak?
Well, greatest tournament.
Come on.
So
dead air, talk.
So sorry. So we've obviously, Scott Hall's gone through against Piper. Roman Reigns is about to go through. We've got Warrior versus Ric Flair.
Oh Jesus!
And then Goldberg and Brock Lesnar.
Wow. Okay. So, right. Okay. If we pick one where the one where Lesnar. Oh no, we were talking about doing WrestleMania 20, weren't we? Oh, Goldberg wins that one. Damn it. The only one that Lesnar does win is WrestleMania this year, a couple of months after that. It's a short match, it's only 5 minutes, but that does give us potentially Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, and then Warrior versus Ric Flair, did you say?
Yeah.
I mean, we could potentially find a Warrior or Flair versus Razor Ramon match, but then you're going to have the winner of that match versus the winner of Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. That's going to be tricky, isn't it? I think we've booked ourselves into a corner, as they say.
Well, we did address this potential issue in the first episode, and we said we have to find sort of a tentative way.
Substitute. We could run an angle backstage so no one sees it. Yeah, run an angle backstage where Roman Reigns gets taken out by whoever and is replaced by. And then we'll just pick someone random, so we have a match we want to watch. Ric Flair versus whoever. Let's we'll have a double check of that actually, just to see how feasible it is. I think we can make it work so that people get through the semis fine, but I think we're just talking 2 different generations, aren't we? Both semis are quite a generation apart. In theory, Lesnar's the only one that could possibly. On a Goldberg, we've got Goldberg winning, but then Goldberg would have to face. Has Goldberg ever faced? Could you have a Goldberg Scott Hall final? Would that work? So Goldberg beats Lesnar, but then how do we? Oh my lord, this is complicated. We'll have to have a look off camerally because those the dozens and dozens of people that have stayed with us so far are starting to get a bit bored now. We need to keep our listenership. We need to keep it
I
high.
didn't notice this week on Facebook we were getting a few new views.
Oh, that's exciting, isn't it?
Notification. I think we've got 3 new views.
Oh,
Facebook. Anyway.
Well, that's a start, isn't it? Keep it up for like a few decades, and we'll have a fair listenership, won't we?
There you go. Do you want me to whiz off these last few questions for you?
I do, very much so, yeah.
Who did Roman Reigns defeat for his first WWE Championship?
Ambrose in the final of a tournament at Survivor Series 2015, lost it 5 minutes later to Sheamus.
Well done.
Thanks.
Which match concept did Chris Jericho invent?
Money in the Bank, WrestleMania 22.
Brilliant. It was all the extra info there. Who did Roman Reigns last eliminate to win the 2015 Royal Rumble?
2015. Right. So the year before is when he gets the last 2 with Batista. 2015, he wins it. I don't know if I know, so I'm going to have an educated guess. It's going to be Ambrose.
Rusev.
Rusev. Oh, that makes sense. Makes sense.
What is the name of Chris Jericho's band?
Fozzy.
Well done. And last but not least, which team defeated Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins for the WWE Tag Team Championships?
Right. So it's going to be late 2013, early 2014. I'm going to go the New Day.
No. Do you want another go?
Primetime Players.
No. Cody Rhodes and Goldust.
Oh yeah, brothers. Yeah. No, I wouldn't have got that. I'm aware they held the tag titles roughly, well, obviously around that time because they beat them for it. But yeah, I wouldn't have thought of them.
Hey, I drawn a few there today.
You did, yeah. So that's what happens when you make an effort and come up with some good questions. The more effort you make in prepping good questions, the less effort I have to make in like doing anything rather than just turning up on Zoom. So everyone's happy. Right, guys, we'll figure out the match for next week in a way that may or may not make the remainder of the tournament work. But guys, I hope you enjoyed that.